Well, here I am in the Grainger Museum with the co-curator, Brian Allison. Brian, the last time I came here, it was a much darker place, apart from anything else.
There has been somewhat a transformation over the last few years.
How long was the place closed?
About 7 years, yeah. It's taken quite a while to actually get the building into a completely renovated state, so that we had waterproofing problems basically, but of course we've done a complete new fit out as well.
Well, and you can walk right the way around it now.
Yes,
which is different. This was the London room, wasn't it?
This was the original London room when I started here. The London room, I think, has sort of had a migratory pattern around the museum.
So how close is this layout to what Grainger himself intended?
That's a really difficult question to answer, because basically when Grainger did lay the building out, he was interrupted by the Second World War.
Right.
And so then it was laid out again, and there have been subsequent curators. Of course, this means we don't really have a very good understanding of how he intended it to be. There is a sort of a logic and a narrative to this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've just passed a display that is really dedicated to Rose Grainger, Percy's mother, and it really sort of looks at, there's a dress that there's a photograph of her actually wearing it, so we've got the dress, the photograph, Japanese artefacts. She was particularly interested in Japanese decorative arts and crafts artefacts.
She was an enormous influence on, I suppose most people's mothers are enormous influences on them, but nothing compared to Percy and Rose. I mean, the relationship was incredibly strong, and in that glass cabinet there are her sort of her last things.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I think the word, the term we might use is slightly over-bonded.
Yes.
But, I mean, she was also the driving force in his life. I mean, I think without her, I don't think he would have probably, had the meteoric rise that he did in terms of his performing career. I mean, she really drove him. Yes, this is a cabinet that basically has the contents of her bag when she very unfortunately fell or threw herself out of a 18-storey window in New York. He preserved all those items. He's also got a lock of her hair.
Well, more than the lock.
Well,
it's
quite a large
plait
of her hair. So yeah, I mean, what we've tried to do in the museum, I think, is create a certain intimacy where you actually are confronting sort of elements and details of a person's life and their relationships in a way that you don't normally have access to in a lot of museums.
No. Well, that's only going to become more pronounced as we move on.
This is great.
Here, we're entering really the world of Grainger's music and some of the piano, of the wax cylinders.
Yes, this gallery, I mean, each space tends to sort of deal with different aspects of Grainger's life and his work. This area is really about his creative interests. So as you say, we're standing in front of an original Edison phonograph that he used to record in the field folk singers both in England, Lincolnshire, and later in Scandinavia. There's a wall cabinet here that actually has his original transcription of Brig Fair, which he took down originally on the Edison phonograph.
Yes. And there's the two verses, the only two verses Mr. Taylor could remember.
That's correct, written down. So you've actually got that, and then you've got a marked up printer's proof, effectively, of Brig Fair when he set it.
Yes.
Set it for chorus and piano. And then we've actually got the map, of where he walked, and he actually has drawn up his little map of where he actually walked and the people that he interviewed and the people he recorded.
I imagine this thing's pretty heavy to lug around.
Well,
just as well he was fit.
He did, but I mean, he also used to co-opt people to drive him around every now and then. There's a story that he managed to get the as yet to be Prime Minister Lord Balfour to actually drive him around along with Lady Elcho, Balfour's sweetheart, shall we say, and he'd get people to come out on his collecting trips with him sometimes. Other times he'd just sort of carry his Edison phonograph in a backpack and walk.